on procurement challenges during COVID-19 pandemic and what can we learn from it. So this is a webinar. Today is a joint webinar between the Chartered Institute Logistics and Transport and also Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman Kampar campus. So today webinars is very unique because in the morning we are celebrating the new members of CILT who's being awarded with chartered memberships and also the membership status. And then for your information, Dr. Warren here, and I see the Dr. Ao Yong also in the Ao Yong also in this webinar. So congratulations those who become a chartered member. Okay. So before I start, I would like to invite Mr. Tuan Haji Amiruddin Tajuddin as the chairman of CILT Perak to give some opening remarks regarding the webinar. So Tuan Haji Amiruddin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Azam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me?
Waalaikumsalam. Yes.
Waalaikumsalam.
First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Azam, so UTAR, for having me this afternoon for this webinar. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Amiruddin bin Tajuddin. I'm into transportation business for the past 25 years, namely in the bus operation, whereby my company have been operating these express buses and also currently my business is also into football, and we are also affected here and there because of this COVID situation. Anyway, we are surviving, and then hopefully same goes with you all. Secondly, let me also introduce the CILTM briefly. CILTM is actually a professional body whereby individuals in the private and also in the government, where the person involved professionals in their own business or into what they are doing, and we into this CILT, we are giving, like what Dr. Azam mentioned just now very clearly, that we have this convocation, the 19th conversation we are having this morning at SACC Mall, whereby a few hundred of our recipients, some of them graduates from doctorate, masters, bachelors, and also from diplomas are being awarded this chartered certificate. And if any of you have already received this morning, I would like to take this opportunity also to congratulate you all for your success. Hopefully more success will come in the future. And CILT are very keen to make this opportunity to also engage with the industry, because as you know, that not only knowledge but also experience is very important, especially young students from UTAR that are together with us this afternoon would benefit from the webinar panels that I was informed by Dr. Azam, namely Dr. Izwan Amir from Air Selangor, Dr. Warren Lu from Intel, and also Dr. Suzari from USN. Thank you so much for having us today. I myself actually graduate from University Science Malaysia, engineering department, engineering faculty.
It's a great pleasure, bro.
Yeah, I'm to have USM lecturers together with us this afternoon. Thank you so much. From this discussion, we hope that it will benefit our students and also colleagues in the industry, so that whatever that we do, we share the knowledge, and then we will get this economic situation in Malaysia in general, Perak in particular, to excel in this environment that are actually different from previous economic situation. And from this, we hope the industry will contribute to the GDP of the state and also of the country. I wouldn't want to further my speech. Whatever that you require, please, you want to know about the CILTM further, please contact with our website and also with me personally. Also, I'm always available. Thank you so much for having me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Tuan Haji Amiruddin, the chairman for CILT Malaysia Perak section. Ladies and gentlemen, so today panel to discuss about procurement challenges during the COVID-19 consists of first of all, Encik Izwan Amir bin Umar Isa. He's the head of technical venture from the Air Selangor Holding Berhad. Encik Izwan, thank you very much for attending. Glad to have you here as one of the panels. Panel number 2 is Dr. Warren Lu. Dr. Warren is currently attached with Intel Corporation Penang. He's also our chartered member. Panel number 3 is Dr. Suzari Abdul Rahim. He's a researcher currently at the Graduate School of Business, Universiti Science Malaysia. And the moderator for today is Mr. Mohan Selvaraju, and he's an academician at Universiti Tunku Abdul Rahman campus, and also a chartered member with CILT Malaysia. So without further ado, I would like to give the session to Mr. Mohan to moderate the event. So Mr. Mohan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azam, and also thank you, Encik Amiruddin, for being with us today and all the panels. And it's my pleasure to have all of you here and taking this moment to be with us during even your busy days. Thank you very much in the first place. I would like to say on behalf of CILT as well. Okay, and also UTAR.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, without further ado, we'd like to go into the topic, actually, our session, procurement challenges during the COVID pandemic, actually. Okay, of course, a lot of people knows that, for many people, the word procurement is always is a new terminology, probably, but then I think people commonly will know that purchasing is one of the common things that we all the way we know. Okay, so neither purchasing or procurement is not a difference. It's almost the same, except for the concepts and application of it. That's what actually all about procurement. And I would like to really say, take this moment to thank Dr. Azam for really giving this opportunity to discuss on the procurement topic. Okay, I would like to address this question to Encik Izwan, who is from Air Selangor, who I know him personally, and he was in the purchasing for many years as well. Okay, Encik Izwan, okay, from your point of view as well, your exposure, how important is the procurement, or so-called purchasing, at Air Selangor, actually?
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody can hear me okay?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, firstly, thank you very much to Tuan Haji Amiruddin, Chairman of CILTM of Perak, for this opportunity. Mr. Mohan, thank you for inviting me to be here. He was teaching my guys a few months back, slightly over a year ago. So we appreciated him, and I'm happy that we kept the contact. Dr. Azamdin for organizing this. Thank you very much. And my fellow panelists, Dr. Warren Lu and Dr. Suzari. Thank you very much for inviting me and being here. For me, it's very simple. I mean, my career has, I've worked for more than 25 years, and only in the last more than 5 years, I've been with AIS Selangor, first as the head of procurement, and then now I'm the head of technical ventures of the AIS Selangor Holdings, which is the holding company. Before that, for 20 years, I was with Shell in a variety of roles. Altogether, 20 years in Shell, more than half the time overseas, and my career spanned from downstream, midstream, and right into upstream. So I had a very colorful career. I'm very thankful for that. The reason I mention that is because, just to frame it in the right way, throughout my career, I've seen procurement change in Shell. When I first joined Shell in 1994, procurement was more like a materials department. But in about 1995, during that period, Shell started to have a huge shift in terms of addressing procurement. So procurement changed into a supply chain function, and with that, it became a strategic role, right? So since 1995 until now, I know that the journey to treat procurement as a strategic enabler is still there in Shell. And when I arrived in AIS Selangor in 2016, that same ethos was the same thing that I carried forward. Yeah. So my passion for increasing supply chains dominance or importance in a company is very clear, because for me, I've been taught, and it's true, that a dollar in terms of revenue does not translate automatically to a dollar in profits, but a dollar saved, that does translate to actually a dollar gained overall, and that actually attacks your bottom line really, really well. So that's something that is need to be trained up. And more and more, I find organizations are tuned to that. I give another example. Being in the oil industry for a while, Schlumberger is another company that's well respected in the oil and gas industry. So even in Schlumberger, you cannot rise above a certain level of leadership unless you pass through supply chain, aka procurement first. So you must be able to know how to manage cost, how to handle disputes with contractors and suppliers, right? How to handle internal customers. Then only you can move forward. So this kind of thinking that, you know, cost monitoring is very important is something that is getting more and more prevalent. And I've seen that throughout when I talk to friends in the industry and friends in general. Yes, it's becoming more and more important. So the short version is procurement/supply chain has earned its place at the table of management, but you have to make sure that you do your part in order to make sure that your seat is well earned. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing your background of how you came and things, actually, Dr. Izwan. Okay, I'd like to address the same things to Dr. Warren Lu. Probably you can share your exposure in the procurement as well, your from your company perspective.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks to our team for having me today. So I would say that I fully agree with Mr. Izwan that the procurement has become a very strategic important to any company. So especially in today's environment, and then especially when during pandemic issues, whereby is a lot of issues that happen, and a lot of border closed down, and it create a lot of disruptions to the supply in the total environment. So the changes of procurement role today, it becomes from the strategic role, whereby we are more moved towards integration. Procurement or purchasing is no longer is a standalone function, but whereby we need to combine with a lots of others, collaborate with a lots of other function between the factory or between the organization or inter-organization, to liaise with our supplier, with our customer, to let them know that what is happening throughout the entire chain, right? So we need to pass along the information from one end to another end. Well, what happened at the customer side will eventually affect the supplier side as well. So likewise, because of the COVID-19, a lot of factory has to be quarantined. They have to cease the operation for 7 to 14 days, which is that is unforeseen circumstances. So that is actually giving us a lot of challenges in the semiconductor. So in the past 1 year, especially when we are working in this semiconductor in the Intel, we have been giving heart attack from time to time, because at any other time, suddenly one supplier declared that the Ministry of Health, because of COVID, they have been put to cease the operation that eventually need to close for 7 to 14 days. So in the kind of circumstances, that is actually giving us a lot of challenges, because that we already foresee that the material is coming in, and we already plan all our activity according that. And based on the date that we plan and commit, we also commit to our customer as well. But suddenly, because of this kind of disruption coming in, we have to redo, replan, and also work out with some of the backup plan. So that's why when this procurement is the front line that facing with all the disruption supply from supplier, we have to do a lot of initiative and to drive a lot of effort, not to only to collaborate with the customer, but internally we also need to collaborate with our production, our planning department, warehouse department, logistic department. So all this purchasing is actually playing a very important role, so that we able to get the material moved, and also not only in time, but to reduce and also work around how can we reduce the impact to the overall order that we try to deliver in order to maximize our revenue. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. That's excellent explanation about the situation even during the pandemic moment actually. Okay, now I would like to address a question, the what do you call the question to Dr. Suzari regarding how do you find the procurement practice in terms of academically, how important it is in the academically in terms of procurement to the the students as well, the academicians.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mohan. Thank you very much, all the team members, especially to Mr. Dr. Azam. Thanks for inviting me to be one of the panel. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, very well.
Okay. I introduce myself first. I'm Dr. Suzari bin Abdul Rahim. I'm from Graduate School of Business USM. In fact, right after my study, my first degree, I joined my experience in procurement is something. It's about 20 years. When I joined right after my first degree, I joined the Hewlett Packard company in Penang, which is a procurement team. During that time, they still call that purchasing, and procurement is about to be popular soon. Then after that, I joined Telecom Malaysia as a procurement as well. Then after that, I further my study in supply chain management in London, and my PhD in supply chain management. Okay, procurement is actually I love to deal with procurement. In fact, that procurement is actually having to say that procurement is having a downstream and upstream. It is an entire role of people who live in the supply chain and purchasing. They are interchangeable within the supply chain and purchasing. Maybe purchasing is more toward the more transactional relationship, whereas the procurement is a bit more strategic, where they are talking about downstream, upstream. Upstream is talking about the supplier, how you manage the relationship with the supplier. Whereas with the contract management, where you have a contract with the supplier, you have to manage the contract. Whereas the downstream, you have to manage the customer. Your customer, it could be your internal customer, which is if you are when I was in HP, it's a manufacturing company where my internal customer is the production engineering teams and R&D teams. Those people is my internal customer. I may not be lying direct with the what do you call the end customer, which is the user, but internal customer is there, which is all the planning departments, all the purchasing department is involved in the procurement. Okay, let's look into the importance of the procurement supply chain management in the academics point of view, which is I'm actually teaching the MBA student as well as DBA and PhD student. I feel like most of the students, some of them are not really knows about what is all about procurement, purchasing, supply chain, but by I think lately about 5 to 10 years back, the procurement and supply chain and subject in the universities are getting popular, and universities are now start looking at the supply chain people, grooming a supply chain subject and courses that involve procurement and purchasing. Okay, I think that people in the academic, as an academician point of view, we will actually start to look into this kind of supply chain and procurement related to the industry, because it is actually very important and play a very significant role in the industry right now. It's getting popular in the industry. All right. Okay. Looks at the point of pandemic. When we are going to discuss about pandemic, supply chain and procurement is really important, where we have to look into a kind of procurement method during the pandemic. We shouldn't be having a procurement by tender. We have maybe four types of procurement which is popular, which is direct procurement by quotation, like normal procurement, which is we may be calling few quotation from the suppliers. We may have procurement by tender, managing the tender, and we could be having an open tender or closed tender. We may have the procurement direct awards, which is direct nego, and we may have an emergency procurement, where these things are actually very important to be in the procurement point of view. But during the pandemic, we should be put aside, not to say put aside, we should have live in a way of direct awards and actually emergency. If you go for the normal tender, I don't think so it is applicable. It is the way to handle, because of pandemic is pandemic. You have to deal with very emergency thing, and you have to deal with a very fast action. You should be having, sometimes people are like, you are buying PPEs for government are buying PPEs. They wouldn't be having a long time tender to tender with the open tender. They might be having a direct awards, or they might be having an emergency purchase in that way. So we will talk about it later once we are talking about more about the pandemic issues, challenges. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Susari. It's wonderful, actually, because I can foresee that, Doctor, that your exposure, from the industry, then you went to academic. It's always, it sounds very established, actually. Thank you very much for that. Actually, very well said. And also the other panels is one as well, Dr. Warren. Now, of course, to many people, like what Dr. Susari said, actually, probably many people are still, find it is new that when we say procurement and all that. But of course, procurement is not a new thing in our life. It's a part of our life. We've been buying a lot of things, actually. So we buy for our personal use. But of course, when it comes to buying for companies, it always makes a lot of difference. because like what Dr. Suzari says and Dr. Warren says, is more towards a strategic, compared to what we buy for our personal. So that makes a lot of difference in terms of procurement. And I would like to take this moment and say, as this moment that before supply chain, we start saying supply chain is always logistics, that we know, And I would also like to say this, way back in 1999 or 1998, prior that there is no institute ever offered any courses regarding to logistics or supply chain perhaps in Malaysia. And the only one who have introduced, as far as I concerned, that it's CILT actually, and CILT way back in 1988, they already started to introduce the logistic courses at that time. And I would say, and I'm a chartered member, and I graduated from chartered, and I felt very proud that gaining the graduations through chartered, and I would say shabas to CILT that introducing the logistic courses, and then today it has ventured to many universities throughout the country, and I think everyone get to know, and students, the young generation get to know logistics is through that actually. Yeah. And I think shabas to CILT for doing that actually.
True. Thank you.
No, in Chamaruddin, that's the truth actually, because as far as I came from the background, I've been 20 years in a CILT member, so I think I'm proud to say that actually. Okay, without any other further, in Chaiswan, okay, I'm sure you have managed the procurement before this pandemic actually, right? It was very much different, and of course you had challenges during that time, but of course, when it comes to pandemic, this COVID is something very new, and many companies never experienced such challenges, and nobody experienced, ever dreamt that it's going to be like that. So what kind of real challenges IS Selangor, from your point of view, would have faced in terms of procurement?
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Warren has actually mentioned some of the basics. Basically, you can't get the supply. Yeah, yes. I mean you cannot get the supply is one thing, but on the labor and service side, you get people who are falling sick. Therefore, they're out of action for 7 to 14 days at the best. In worst case, they have severe COVID and they may actually lose their life, right? So the extreme is very, very, very much so. So let me speak broadly first. Some of the challenges that we immediately faced was that we had some items that were imported and we need this equipment to be commissioned, right? And we have several pieces of high-tech equipment that now, more than a year, cannot be commissioned because we cannot get the technician into the country. Because it's just difficult. 2 weeks in, 2 weeks quarantine, go back and all that stuff. But now that it's only now that restrictions have started to be eased up. Now we're looking into bringing that technician and those experts in. At the same time, there's other things. Even from Singapore alone, it's very difficult to get technicians in. So it has exposed us to certain shortcomings, if you want to put it that way. But I am as usual. We try and make sure we think positively about things, right? So it has exposed us to opportunities actually, right? So this has proven to us that one of the awarding criteria for critical items need to be the current situation in what's going on in the world, yeah, as much as you can predict it, so to speak. But at the same time, having Malaysian-based suppliers and getting commitment from your suppliers that long term, they will have this expertise in Malaysia is very important as well. The other thing was the exposure to opportunities is that it exposed a certain things. Yeah, but here IS Selangor was blessed because 2-3 years before this happened, we actually moved into a new system, right? Mm. And we decided that certain systems should not be on-premise anymore, but should be cloud-based, right? So yes. This is also an important thing because once it's cloud-based, you can actually have the system be accessed, yeah, from outside, from anywhere. As long as you have a website, you have access to the internet, you can access this. So that's one of the good things. So I remember in 2016, 2017, there was still debate about, yeah, we are a public company, so there's a very significant difference in how we have to do procurement. Yeah, although I agree with Dr. Suzari, during this time, emergency procurement or direct purchase might be the best way forward. But being a public company is not so straightforward. You know, you still have to comply to your rules. Yeah, because if not, the public will not be happy, and that doesn't still work. Yeah. Yeah. So systems, coming back to systems. I still remember in 2016 we were discussing in the management team, trying to save money. You know, so the laptop was 300-400 ringgit more expensive than the desktop, basically, right? So we want to save money, right? So okay, fine, we have to limit. So if you want to have a laptop, you got to justify it and whatnot. The moment the pandemic happened, we realized that, you know, trying to save 300-400 ringgit on the laptop seemed very petty, because by right, if you give this to your staff, you can actually get back 2 ringgit of productivity a day at least. I mean, it can be even between 10 ringgit of productivity a day. So you get payback within 1 year. But here also it exposes you to a culture. Yes. You have a responsible workforce. Are they going to play games on the laptop and watch Korean movies, or are they going to work? So this is another bit about the pandemic. You're trying to make sure productivity is up. But in the end, these are some of the investments. So I Selangor were a bit half and half on this one. Systems were okay, laptops we were halfway there. But the moment it struck, we tried to order, and there was even a shortage of laptops at that time. Okay. And then we realized that, you know, connectivity for our staff at home, that was also another thing, right? There was another exposure that we learned there, right? So here I'm talking about from the perspective of productivity. I think we're blessed in a way that quite a lot of our staff can still function, especially if you're on the back end type stuff, right? But in terms of front end, there was a lot of cultural issues, because when the pandemic first struck, I think TM as well. I think Tenaga National stopped sending their meter readers out because they didn't know. They were fearful about their meter readers contracting COVID, because at that time it wasn't 100% understood, right? Yes. So therefore, our meter readers also were worried. But think about it, when a company like Tenaga or Air Selangor or any other water company, Lembaga Air Perak, whatever, cannot send the meter reader, means there is no billing. When there is no billing, there is no money. There is no money.
No revenue.
With no revenue, we cannot support the contractors that have our contracts. Yes. So there is this kind of even ripple effects that now that we've gone through it, needs to become a learning event. Yes. So investing in technology, investing in technology now has become a bit more easier. Things that make you be able to work regardless of your geographic location becomes more important, right? So we don't need, we were lucky. Before 2018 or so, 2017, late 2017, we were still looking for signatures everywhere when I do a PO. We are blessed that around 2017, we moved completely away and we could do sign approvals online. Yeah. So
digital signing, right?
It's a bit of a dinosaur. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Darren in Intel is laughing, because I'm sure everything is digitized. But these are some of the things that, you know, looking back, it saved us. Yeah. And I'll mention one last thing that also there's a lot of learnings actually, but just one last thing is that the fact that we early on when we came in, we differentiated our supplier base. So looking at our supplier base, we figured out which were the 20% of our supplier base were the most important. Right? And therefore we differentiated and we looked at that critically, and we managed to set up proper framework agreements and supply chain, and worked on our relationship on that 20%. That Alhamdulillah, we say is that we managed to minimize the impact, because one of the things that all the water operators in Malaysia suffered from was chemical shortage. Couldn't import chemicals, which is also exposes a liability in Malaysia. When we import water, when we import chemicals, and the condition of our rivers being what they are, right? Yes. All the kopi susu, teh susu type of river, right? So without these chemicals, you really cannot clean and treat the water. So it is an exposure point, you know. So these are some of the things which I hope some of the authorities learn. And yeah, and these kind of forums are good because we can sort of share, and the fact that we actually need to document down what we can learn from this and then take it forward. The last time this happened for me, it was very early in my career, was in the Malaysia 1998 currency crash, where we got quotation that was only valid for 24 hours.
Yes,
And
true.
it was only in US dollar. Okay,
Yes,
those who
yes.
say yes, those are all old people.
Yes, we
Yeah,
may
we
be at the
don't
same
remember
age.
this means you're still young. I remember
Still young at heart.
quotation of 24 hours. That's one I remember.
Yes.
I remember the other thing is that, you know, people coming begging, please take back your contract. I cannot supply. Please don't bankrupt my company. So these are also things that we need to think about. All right, there's many more we can talk about. Okay, I'll pass the floor
Perhaps
to you.
Chezwan, I think that time they don't want even contract actually because they feel that it's very insecure having contract actually. I remember in that time financial crisis, they really denied about the contract actually. Thank you, Chezwan. That's wonderful actually, for sharing that pandemic. Dr. Warren, you have shared just now about the pandemic actually, how what is the real challenge that apart from what you shared just now, the other real challenge that you had during this pandemic in terms of fulfilling the procurement task as well, requirements? We share that. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually have a very tough time right now, even since the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic first struck. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, we are having a tough time is because at that time suddenly a lot of flight like Mars Airline or Air Asia, they just stopped to fly. Okay, and then it's only dedicated those cargo plane that they able to fly. So at that time, suddenly the things that all the parts that we order from all around the world, from US, Europe, and then suddenly at normal time we estimate it should take 2 to 5 days to arrive in Malaysia. Then suddenly because of this lack of the service, we has been like the regular 2 to 5 days delivery, it had been prolonged to 3 to 5 weeks. Okay, so that is also giving us a lot of hard time. So I still remember very deeply is one of the flight is you can see the moment they give you the tracking, you start to track the shipment. You can see that it's simply around the world. It start from California, and then it's supposed at normal time we should have a direct flight from US to Malaysia, right? And then suddenly you see the flight from US route to Korea route to somewhere, and then end up land at China. And then when we try to find out, it's only see that they have received the instructions that everything has to consolidate in their China hub in Guangzhou. Then only they can allow to charter a flight once a week, once a day to from Guangzhou to Malaysia. And then every order that being channeled to Malaysia, you need to wait for your turn. Okay. So at that time, my cargo just stuck in Guangzhou hub for more than a week and waiting for our turn. So even you offer to pay premium, you want to expedite, sorry, they simply no extra services. Okay. Yeah, this is the first challenges that we have at the very beginning. And then the second challenges along the way is when the government announced that some of the factory need to shut down because of COVID cases incur, and then it is also disrupt to our supply chain, the overall supply chain, because that the management will want to assess the entire risk. So that's why when one of the factory in let's say in Seremban is being declared shut down, and then eventually the management instruct us to check all the supplier that within the region of Klang. So from Klang, so that's why we need to call our supplier from every day to find out the status, whether you are affected, do you have anything. So that is also add on that a lot of last minute confirmation that we need to contact our supplier in order to get the confirmation. So that is also giving us a lot of headache and hard time. Okay,
Yes.
and then for C is right now the situation that we are facing right now is actually in a lot of semiconductor item right now, we can see that the lead time has been prolonged. Okay, it's prolonged is crazily long. So usually for the electronic item that for IC or any passive component, we can get it in 20 to 35 weeks at normal time. But right now, some of the major brand, they just declare 70, 90 weeks. Okay, so that is about 2.5 years.
Yes,
You order today, you will expect only to get it 2.5 years later. So that's why our management is also need to do a lot of strategy, allocate a lot of extra fund in order to load more order. So right now, in the procurement concept in today's work, we need to educate a lot of people that yes, cost is a major concern. That we need to pay more. We need to because that in fact that in a lot of open market that we try to buy because that when we approach the source, the manufacturer, they are quoting us for the 90 weeks. So we cannot wait for that long. So we have to go to the open market to buy, to grab whatever inventory that they have the stock with, right? And the price is crazy out there. So for a simple part that we usually pay about maybe 50 cent USD, right now it can quote you up to $30 to $40 a piece. Okay, so that will give you the price variance up to 100 to 200,000 USD.
Yes.
Okay, and that is the cost that we have to pay. But in that case, we will need to educate a lot of people that, hey, you need to look into the total cost. Okay, you need to look into the total cost. You cannot look into the cost alone because that you look into just a piece price that you need to pay extra 100 to 200,000 just for one electronic item. But look into your overall impact, right? So because of you refuse to pay this 100 to 200,000, and then you have tens of millions of order or revenue being affected. Okay, so that's why this is the things that we have to deal with. I know that we need to pay a lot of extra cost because of we want to grab, and some more another challenges is not only us crazily we want to even we ready to pay that premium, but the part is moving very fast. So when in the morning your supplier feedback to you, hey, I have this part to offer to you. Then by the time you prepare all the material you want to submit for approval, and then by the time the approval granted in the late evening, and then the supplier tell you, hey, sorry, the price is gone. Either its price is gone or the price is already another price to offer you. Yeah. Yeah. So this is really it's really crazy to deal with today. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. That's wonderful. Exactly. That is the impact that has caused, I think, through while we're going through this COVID pandemic. Actually, perhaps I would like to say here that the impact is not over because it's still being exist, and then I think it's still causing a lot of disruptions in terms of cost saving and many things like that to the companies. Actually, it's not just the pandemic cases gone down, that the other thing, but when it comes to supply chain and when in perspective of procurement, I think the impact is still there, and I think it will take some time for companies to revamp and to search back into their normal condition. It will take some time, I believe, actually. Okay, Dr. Suzari, maybe from your point of view, how do you see that pandemic challenges actually challenge this procurement?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mohan.
Thank you.
Okay, looks at the point of challenges. Of course, when you deal with procurement, you are talking about supplier relationship management, building the relationship with the supplier. You are talking about quality improvement. You are talking about the ensuring the continuous supply. You are talking about the minimizing the inventory. Right now, those things are checking all the time now. you can see the shaking is quite high because of when you talk about cost saving right now. How can the procurement have a cost saving with the pandemic? The pandemic actually cost you much more than cost saving. Am I right, Warren?
Yes, I totally agree. We emphasize on availability right now rather than
Rather
cost
than
saving.
Cost
cost.
saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of all the times procurement are talking about cost saving here and there, maneuver the something like cost saving in here and there, but you wouldn't be able to much to minimizing your in the inventory because of it is good for you now to keep the inventory quite much because of the inventory. Maybe even though you put your money stuck there or lying there in few weeks because of the inventory also cost money for you, but you are safe rather than your production will not be going, I mean, shut down totally because of you may still have parts for you to build the in the production. But if you're looking at the point of academics, yeah, academic may not be hit impact too much on this pandemic, but of course we are actually teaching. We are telling our student that this time is very very critical because of if you study the supply chain in a real world supply chain right now, China have a now supply chain crisis, a crunch of the supply chain crisis. They have a power crisis. They have all those crises. If I'm not mistaken, the Taiwan chip maker also having a crisis right now, which is IC, right? Chips, all the chips makers having how many 70 over weeks to 90 weeks of lead time. This is totally we have not expect this thing are going to happen during the previous time, but right now we have to deal with it. We have no way to move away from this because of this is a real issues, and we are actually have to face it. And even sorry, even if you are talking about to keep the stock at a higher level, so right now, maybe you can ask your supplier to supply you, but they say that sorry, I'm so sorry, I can't supply you even anything. You are doing your expedition, pull in, push out, and all those things are not working well. I'm very sure because of they have a huge number of massive of problem need to be dealt with in order to bring all the material parts into their plant. But particularly like Intel, Warren said that just now, it is very difficult time. It's a very tough time for you to deal with. I'm having an experience while dealing with Telecom Malaysia last time during, it's not pandemic, during the emergency thing where these flood issues in Malaysia is during the flood issues. Flooded as hit Johor, if I'm not mistaken that time. I was the one who handled the procurement at the northern southern region. They have all those equipment flooded. Equipment in a telecommunication what do you call that? Equipment are flooded, and those things are all the tiang are patah here and there. So during that time, it's really emergency, and you can't say that okay, makcik, you have to wait. The electricity is actually can not there. So everything is actually emergency. And during that time, I was thinking that, oh my goodness, I do not know how to deal with this because of all the supply is actually in from the KL. It's center from the KL to go to Johor. They are flooded, and you can't go to there, and the equipment cannot go there. The equipment is actually tenggelam in the air. So what do you expect? You are actually ask the people who are in there, okay, do anything that you can, repair it or do something that can survive only for the survival only. It's not to say that talking about you want to have a cost saving, you want to have all the, I mean, life saving life right now. This is more important rather than rather than normal life. So what you have to do is actually right now pandemic is really hit you. When we talk about pandemic, you are things are unexpected, and you have to deal with kind of really emergency thing. And what I can say is everybody supply chain procurement are really been hit well, very bad, very bad, and it is going to be. That's why we are talking about now. Recession is slowly coming in due to this reason, because of it is a supply chain issues where the issues of uh, all the material are not being able to supply. You have a MCO, and the MCO is restrict you to your production to be running in a very optimal time. And this is linkages among all supply chain together with the procurement. At the end of the day, your hands are tied. You can't do anything much. Even though you have the supplier, good supplier, supplier will say that I'm so sorry, I'm surrender, Suzari. I can't do anything much. It's just a matter of you wait until the thing is coming back to the back to normal situation. Okay, that is my point.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Suzari. Thank you very much for your sharing. Now, it's very true. I think we heard from all our panels just now also that getting the supply is always a very critical when it comes to procurement. So strategic sourcing is a ultimate element that is very pivotal for any procurement what do you call practice. But of course, now we do have the what do you call sourcing, but unfortunately, the sourcing unable to supply to the needs that we have actually. Like what Dr. Warren says just now, they have extended the lead time, which is the most critical in the supply chain. And everyone is is aiming to shorten the lead time here, but now it's look like the lead time is no more in control, because it's gone to another level, and where it's not within our control. And let's say if that particular product or the material is coming from the what do you call supplier who's known to be a what do you call a monopoly, kind of a single source, suppliers, then it's going to be more critical as well. It will jeopardize the entire production as well, the company's strategy. So that's really this is what actually happen in terms of supply chain as well in the procurement. So when we talk about supply chain, it's not easy for us to separate the procurement, because supply chain means it's all about procurement actually. And like what just now, even in Izwan said, and Dr. Warren also said that it's all about the upstream and the downstream. So when we don't have an upstream in place, then that's not possible for us to serve the downstream as the customers actually. This is what the difficulty is. Now, of course, the next thing that I would like to just check, we would like to ask our panels that before the pandemics, of course, we already aware that procurement also moving towards the direction of green and environmental and all that. Now, during this pandemic, okay, of course, despite of that, the situation and all that, we still need to have awareness as well as some kind of directions, and also need to set priority for these kind of green environmental procurement and issues. How do you really manage that during this pandemic? In Jaiswan, probably you can share from your point of view.
I like this topic. It's a very strange topic, this one. The thing is, aspirationally, everyone wants to do more green procurement. For me, my definition of green procurement is the ESG type of procurement, yeah? Where you have your environmental, social, and governance type of procurement. So what you do is you try and purchase responsibly, yeah?
Yes.
So what you do is you try and, in a nutshell, if you can buy from someone who complies with the law, who doesn't pollute, that must have some meaning for your company, right? Because at the end of the day, I believe in climate change, that it has happened, and if we don't do something, then we will all be in trouble. Yeah. So, but I just want to park that one for a short while. I just want to revisit. Yeah. I think one of the things about about green procurement is it will form part of the tender evaluation process coming more and more in the future, right? But it is difficult, right? I mean, companies like Intel, like Icelango or Shell or the bigger companies or TM, we have to move into the green procurement space readily, right? Because you have an established revenue flow, your products are strong, demand is good. Therefore, you need to be more responsible as a corporate citizen. But if you're not making a profit and you're struggling to stay afloat in the black and white, the argument for green procurement is not quite at the forefront of your mind, right? Because you want to turn a profit before you can go green. That seems to be how most people think. The younger generation will say that, no, if you can't turn a profit and be green, then don't have that company. There's also an argument for that. So I'm not going to discount that. Right? But it seems a bit silly, but yeah, there are people who just want to be more responsible. Yeah. But before I go there, I just want to dial back slightly. Yeah, I think we're in the predicament that we're in because of COVID, simply because all our training, right, whatever we've been trained for in terms of supply chain, creating all these linkages between companies, is because we're looking for cost efficiencies, right? Yes. You don't deliberately buy from a company in Europe if you can buy from a company in Malaysia, unless somehow Europe is cheaper or technology, makes you gives you more value, and you can pass that value on to your customers, and therefore you can make more revenue, right? So we've been driven so long on cost efficiency, but what COVID has exposed us is that it has shown that reliability or resilience in the supply chain is also very important. And we have this is speaking generally. It's generally we've all not taken care of resilience. For example, if we have 3 lorries, right? Chances are we may have what do you call this 5 drivers at the most, right? Yes. Because we're trying to rotate the drivers, we're trying to optimize, right? So with 5 we can optimize, right? Suddenly COVID comes, 3 of our drivers are knocked out. Therefore, all 3 lorries cannot jalan, right? So your deliveries are sangkut. This goes for captains of ships, crews, aeroplanes, the baggage handler, the crane operator, semua bungkus, right? So we're designed for resilience, We're designed for cost efficiency, but not resilience. So it has to come back that in our tender evaluations or whatever, how we award, resilience must come into play. So we have to know which are the high risk items on our list, and then we have to factor in resilience into that. Which comes back to the fact that strategic sourcing means there is a risk assessment. So in risk assessment is where we need to highlight. So being professionals and my dear academicians, new friends for today, please push forth that important storyline that it's not just all cost efficiency. It is about resilience. Let us remember this COVID-19. Let us remember what happened in 1998 and everything in between, the floods in East Malaysia and whatnot. We have to remember, document it down, and teach it down. Teach it to the engineers, the people who are learning finance, the people who are going to become the next CEOs, COOs, chief information officers, all the C-level type of positions, right? They need to remember that resilience pays dividends, and resilience actually is important to make sure you protect the company's bottom line.
I will.
Yeah. So I'm counting on you guys. So coming back to green procurement. Yeah, so green procurement, it will become more and more forefront. ESG is something that is being monitored, that is becoming more and more in the forefront. However, ESG cannot be fake ESG. Cannot be greenwashing, cannot be tipu-tipu lah. For example, or you have 25 factories, right? And you have 200 vehicles, right? So what you do is your 200 vehicles you tukar jadi electric vehicle. Looks good, right, to the public. But your 50 factories are still using fossil fuel energy, and you have no desire to change it, right? You're not trying to even move towards energy efficiencies. You didn't create a head of energy efficiency. You didn't create a head of ESG. You're not trying to make sure you drive down this philosophy down to your suppliers as well, right? And are you setting up structures to help your suppliers go green as well? You know? So this is something I susah nak cakap lah, macam ceramah pula kan. But the thing is, each company will have its own desire to achieve this green procurement or green energy, so to speak. I give you an example. Right? Singapore is a very developed country for this part of the world. Agreed? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
But even Singapore tak berani nak announce net carbon zero tau. All they say is it will happen in the second half of the century.
Yes.
Okay. And this coming from a country where they have excess energy, they have reserve margin on energy and water far bigger than Malaysia tau. Pun dia takut because they know that they use a lot of fossil fuel. Faham tak? So okay, please tell me. I'm not trying to put down Singapore. They do a lot of good in different areas, but I'm just trying to emphasize that even someone macam dah developed like Singapore pun very careful how they want to make the announcement, right? Petronas has said to 2050 net carbon zero. Tenaga pun 2050, right? And so these kind of goals, I think each company will have to decide on their own. And I think it will only accelerate more and more if the financial institutions push for it, and if the customers push for it, right? So then when it comes to the general public, I guess that's where the academicians play a bigger role as well, where you can educate, talk about why it's important to start doing this, you know, and why it's important to start paying a bit more if it's selecting a supplier that is 100% green procurement, for example, because they are trying hard to go for green procurement. So you must help them be more, at least achieve the profitability goals in order for that to happen. Kalau tak, sampai bila pun we cannot make it. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. That's wonderful sharing actually about the green actually. Okay, how about from Dr. Warren, from the semiconductor industry perspective, the green procurement, how is relevant and how important it is, and how you manage during, I mean, in this COVID pandemic, how that possible? Probably you can share.
Yeah, during, actually it's not related to COVID or not, but this has been a practice that we try to practice to bring in the part by reduce the impact to the environment. And there is a few practice that we have been doing. So like for example, packaging. So for many type of ICs and electronic component that we bring in, there are some of the item is actually in individual packaging. Okay, so in this case, each part because that if that is the item sell to the retailer, then individual packaging is actually making sense. But eventually we use the item inside the factory. So that's why when the item is shipped it as an individual packaging, that is actually give us a lot of redundant, because that our operator technician at the production side, they need to unbox one by one, which is very time consuming. So that's why whenever there's possible, we always ask for the bulk packaging. Okay, bulk packaging whereby they provide a very good coverage and protection on the product, but at the same time we make it easier for our operator to unbox, and also less packaging material consume. Okay, so that is we always ask our supplier to consider and to strike for that. Okay, and then secondly we do is also for all the these supplier, especially for the local, that they do the frequent delivery to us. We also try to arrange and schedule with consolidation of shipment. For example, those items that which is not very urgently needed, we will ask them to consolidate all the shipment and ship it only like 2 to 3 times a day instead of daily regular shipment to us. So that is also helping us to cut down the shipping cost. At the same time, is also paying our part to not to reduce the CO2 emission, because by cut down the timing of the times of the truck delivery to the plant, right? We able to this is how we able to do our part. And then for the electronic item, I think that most of us know that the RoHS compliant. The RoHS compliant is a very important, whereby that we try not to use the leaded part in all the electronic item, and that has been very consistently. We review our design and then try to phase out everything that have this RoHS RoHS compliant material, and then to bring in the RoHS compliant material in the new design. So that has been done successfully, and a lot of product that we ship out from Malaysia right now is RoHS compliant. Okay, so that is how from we able to do our part in terms of to contribute for the environment well-being. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Warren. Thank you on the explanation on the semiconductors perspective in terms of green and all that. Okay. Now, Dr. Suzari, in terms of from the what you call academic perspective, the knowledgeability of the people in terms of the green procurement or green, especially, how do you find that actually? Well, can you please share from your point of view what kind of understanding the younger generation or they have towards this?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mohan. And I would like to share about before I share about the student, I share about the USM itself. what we did as an academics, institution. We do have we are well known about the sustainability. Concept in our university is sustainable concept. In a green, talking about green, so most of the universities, we are as a lecturer, we are encouraged all the document to be document in a way of do not print out all those things. Those things are actually we are enabled with via the IT system, which is we have a e-books and all those in a way of we are trying to not print too much about the like we are dealing with thesis books and those things. We try not to print too much, and that is part of parcel of our contribution to the supporting the initiative, or I think green initiative. In terms of USM also, if we look right now, we are buying all the air condition with the inverter point concept. We do not use the old one, rather than we are looking at the supporting the sustainable part, support green part, green concept. But to be honest, it involves more cost to us as a institution, as well as we have to invest too much on IT. Our library right now is getting more on IT rather than having too much book. Physically, because we do not print too much right now. So it is part and parcel of our support to the sustainability or green concept. But in the procurement, I would always stress out, emphasize to my student, those things are very important, because of you must ensure that when you deal with the supplier, you must ensure that your supplier is actually been awarded with a certain certificate, like all the certificate like ISO certificate, which is they have the ISO 14001 and all those environment issues. We in a green, we are talking about environment, we're talking about social. The pillar is environment, social, and what do you call it, one more, governance. So we fully support the green concept, and we are actually telling all the students they need to adhere with the concept, as well as when they are going to the company that they are willing to work, or they are going to secure any job after I mean study, they should be able to apply the concept of green. But I'm very sure the concept of green is uh, may not be same as the industry from the same industry, and different industry may not be the same, but the green concept should be applicable to everybody. But as I mentioned, as Israel mentioned just now, talking about we are too much uh, uh, like 2050 vision that TNB and Petronas are talking about. That should be a good initiative for to support the green, even though we know that procurement procurement can help is in a way of, we might need the contract to be designed in such a way that all the suppliers must be green supplier, green awarded supplier, green supplier. They've been in ISO, like all those supplier are actually they've been awarded with the 14,000 and all those things. So this is the concept that we are stressing on our student to think about. And if the thing should be not directly work to the student, because sometimes students are not working, sometimes students are working. For those who are working, we are emphasizing to them that you must ensure that your supplier, if you are selecting the supplier must be awarded with this concept of, they must be adhere with the concept of green procurement, as well as their company is actually awarded with the green ISO thing, like 14,000 and all those things. Okay, talking about the resilient, uh, resilient during the pandemic, I think that it is very true that resilient must be part and parcel of the student requirement right now, because of when they go into the industry, they should be able to make sure that they are having kind of the same concept that industry having now. Because of during the pandemic, you shouldn't be too much weak. You must be having something to stand on, and you must be able to take the challenge during this time. And the challenge is actually during the pandemic, nobody expect the same thing. It hasn't happened in the past 50 years, and it is this time and only that you in your life, maybe this is the time that you need to survive. And this is the resilient part that you need to ensure that you are there with the point of procurement, with the point of green situation. You need to be survived in a way of, even though the pandemic is there, you need to survive that. And your business, your individual as well, you need to survive in a way of, you are mematuhi all the SOP is good. You have to follow what government regulation is this good, but you have to make sure that you are actually yourself is also resilient in a way of dealing with pandemic. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Suzari. Now, of course, on this green perspective, okay. Now, of course, every company have their own methods to handle as well, manage this green in every aspect of their job as well, task as well. Okay, and nevertheless, these procurement itself also required to adopt this green in order to manage every areas in environmentally clean and well managed environment for the organization itself. Of course, it differs from one company to another, and it may have some kind of different applications actually. But indeed, it is very important for every company to work towards the direction of going into a green environment, so that it can brings not only the environment, it also bring a cost saving to the company in many ways actually. Now, just now we also talking on the cost saving and its perspective. Now, when we talk about overall cost, total cost saving, now green also part of the total cost saving itself. You know, that is the idea behind the entire green procurement itself. Now, some of that we also look into, like in terms of the total cost ownership and all that. Now, why we bring these kind of things also in the procurement, because this is also go towards the direction of a healthy spending as well. It bring betterment in terms. So green is also a supporting role for the total procurement excellence. Okay. Now, the other thing that I would like to address to the panels today, like what will be the future of procurement after this pandemic? Actually, in terms of procurement, what do you think the procurement will be? Okay, in Chizwan, probably you can share what will be the future of procurement after this pandemic.
I think from a career perspective, I still am very bullish about procurement. I think it has a very bright future because it's always important to be able to secure and manage risk for your company via taking care of your supply chain. Yeah, if you're a company that provides a service of a product to the end customer, you can only do that with the help of your suppliers and your sub-service providers. Yeah, so if you don't do that well, then you're in trouble. And coming back again from the initial perspective, yeah, there's something called supplier. It's called the Kraljic matrix. I think
Yes.
You have seen that, right? So the thing is, you have to be able to identify which are your strategic items, and that will never change. And strategic items will always change, not always change. Will eventually due to the offerings that your company provides, will start to change, because as substitutes become available, then it will start to change. Just like energy, only right now only fossil fuel energy is available to us, but truthfully speaking, Tenaga is offering green energy for 8 cents more. So, are we willing to go the distance for that, for example? So that's something that is cultural as well. So, like I said, you cannot ask companies to be altruistic. This is just wishful thinking. So the demand must come. The demand for green and more climate sensitive products and companies must come from the public. So kalau public don't do it, then we can't do it. So, but I believe that has to come. Yeah, I think no one is going to say that the weather is the same as 10 years ago. It's 20 years ago. Weather has changed. So if you want to do something different, then some things need to change. And in order to affect that change, the brilliant people at supply chain / procurement / purchasing have to play a bigger role. And we do need the smartest and the brightest in this field, right? So you need to get some serious strong people into this area, yeah, because it's a matter of trying to match up what the engineers or the technicians or the finance people want, marketing people want in the company, and match that with what is available in the market, right? And sometimes the matchup isn't quite good, but it is part of supply chain's role to try and find a matchup that makes sense, right? Find a matchup that makes sense. Eventually, everything's going to be tracked. Data, having humongous amount of data will just be the norm. So, for example, I expect down the road, when we talk about green procurement, whatnot, we're going to be able to say, by buying this widget from Europe versus buying this widget from Terengganu, we are going to pollute the air sebanyak ni. This is the kind of CO2 emission that we're going to generate by buying that. And this CO2 emission will have a price tag attached to it, because now you're talking about carbon credits and things like that. So that's going to be part of, I believe, what's going to happen in terms of supply chain evolution. Data is going to be enormous. That's one. The other thing as well, if you suddenly make a wrong move and you hire a cheap company from country X, whatever country that is, not to offend people, but that company actually uses child labor, abuses their people, work them 20 hours a day, pay them peanuts, put them in in buildings which have no proper ventilation, no proper security, no proper safety. That kind of news, you cannot hide anymore. The moment you get found out, you're going to get branded and it's going to go viral. Therefore, your company can go bankrupt because of a poor supply chain decision. So these kind of things are going to be more prevalent. So the availability of data and all the impact that you can imagine that comes from that will play a role here. By that same token, it also, I'm hopeful. The eternal optimist in me says that this will help us be able to find the good suppliers down there. So the good ethical suppliers who actually have to charge us a bit more in order for them to take care of their workers better, to make sure they have proper rest, proper replacement, proper shifts, And I think, I don't know much about the transport industry, for example. To be able to take care of the drivers better, not force them to work too much, for example. These are just examples. Yeah? So these kind of things, in the past, we wouldn't know, or by the time we know, it will be 6 months to 1 year later. In future, it will be very fast. So our ability to assess all these kind of information will be there. So the skill sets required for supply chain in the future is to find these kind of things. Yeah, and we need to also advise our marketing guys, our sales guys, that we need to have differentiated products. Yeah, meaning that we have to have a differentiated product for what do you call this, customers who are more woke, who are more aware, who are more socially conscious, who are prepared to spend slightly more if it means that this is a fair product.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this will become more and more at the forefront of what procurement will have to do, and the assessment will be harder. Assessment will be harder. So this is part of ESG as well, and it becomes more and more important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Incheswan. Dr. Darren, how about you? How about this? From your side, what kind of future, procurement actually there will be, to look forward or whatever?
Okay, what I think is about procurement, but the function will not move away, but it will keep evolving with the trend and the technology. And actually, there are the more role and responsibility will be putting in this field, right? So as you can see that the from the industry has changed. Last time they has been just only purchasing, start as a purchasing as a single function, and then eventually it has been giving more strategic role, and then has been brand into the company's overall function. And right now, because of the trend as putting everything as a supply chain, so this role procurement will be be part of the important part of the supply chain. So you can see that some of the company structures, they have changed. Last time you hear only CEO, COO, and purchasing, planning, everything used to be part under operation. But to some of the large company right now, they even have the so-called chief supply chain officer. Okay, so don't be surprised that this is the new creation. And also in the industry, in the academic, a lot of university, overseas or local, they also start to offer the course in terms of supply chain, in terms of logistic. Okay, and don't be surprised that in future maybe TAR College also will, or TAR University will also offer a master degree in procurement, right? so this could be a lot, because that master in procurement is already widely available in some of the UK university. Okay, so that's why the demand for the talent is continue to be there. Okay, but what I mentioned is how it involved is like mentioned is right now procurement also need to be a detective. So like what Mr. Izwan mentioned, that we need to select the right supplier. We not only to make sure that our current supplier is playing their role with all the legal requirement compliance, but their suppliers, the second tier of or the third tier of their supplier, is also need to be
compliant.
Yeah, compliant as well. Because
Yes.
any wrongs with them, it will affect our reputation. Okay, so that's why that is also bring us into trouble, because we have the business connectivity with them. Okay, so
Yes.
this is also part of the role of procurement. You need to play the role of the detective. Okay, you need to able to find all the relevant information to make sure that you are not bring into the trouble. Okay, and also right now a lot of this technology has been introduced, like big data, IoT, everything. They also need to bring in to introduce in the department, so that to make the things easier for purchaser. Because right now we are no longer dealing with the transactions, daily transaction, only like 10 to 100 lines, but there is a few thousand lines of items that you need to do the transaction in warehouse, logistic, and procurement. You need release the order thousands of items per day. So that is all the technology that the company will need to bring in to help the department, the purchase procurement department, to be more effective. Okay, and then in terms of decision making, procurement is also playing a very vital role that is for the company success, right? So if let's say you able to deal with the for any project, for any product launch, if let's say you able to get the good supplier pool that able to support you, that means you will be very successful. Otherwise, the failure in selecting the good supplier is also will bring you down. So that's why procurement is playing a vital role for the company great future. And then it has to be a good talent in terms of from the industry, from our education industry, continue able to produce the talented people in this field. Okay, so that is what I think about.
Thank you, Dr. Aaron. It's wonderful, actually, information that you shared, actually, in a very broad, actually, sense of information there. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Susari, how about you? From your side, what do you think about the future procurement in terms of? I would like to ask you in terms of the academical world. How do you think the academic sector should pursue in terms of this procurement in the future, or supply chain,
Okay. Actually, thank you very much. Actually, is maybe academic is point of view is actually look at how to develop, how to groom the student, how to get them the knowledge of the supply chain procurement things to be well equipped to the student. Some student they are actually interest to have those having and good interest to deal with supply chain management and procurement, but some of them may not be having because their exposure is not there. But we will, as an academician, we will have to look into it and offer a very good course in terms of procurement, in terms of supply chain management. So for them, to make them to be more exposure for them, I would like to also talking about emphasize about the initiative of the future procurement, where they should look into a matter of localization in a way of if they do have a localization concept, many localization concept in during this time, so they will not be hit too much on the pandemic, because of they might be having all the material local purchased locally. If they can't purchase externally or worldwide, but they are more towards localization, that would be able to help them in a very it is not much, but it will help them in some way. In a way also, I would encourage the procurement people to look into having a supplier development program, as well as the multiple sourcing concept. They do have multiple sourcing right now, but they should have more strategic point of view to deal with more supplier, which is build up, develop a good relationship with the supplier. At any point you've been hit back by the COVID-19, or any pandemics, So you will have a way to, at least you are not tied up. You will have a way to move somewhere else because your sourcing rule allow you to go multiple sourcing, and you have much more point to see to go for. You can go to the other alternatives sourcing, rather than you are keep locking yourself into one or two single supplier. Yeah. And it is also talking about future. All the companies must be able to adapt with the ERP system, which is, it can be SAP, it can be Oracle, but MNC mostly they have those things. But SMEs and small company, they may not be having ERP system in there, and they should have those things with them in order for them to make very fast decision, to help them to make a very fast decision, and to run their business in a very well manner. And in terms of procurement itself, so as Warren talk about IoT and IT development, I think blockchain will play a very important role in the future. So please make sure that the thing, we as a academician will try to make sure all the students are get exposed in this blockchain concept, which is this will involve the logistic and procurement distribution supply chain management area of field of interest. That is my point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Suzari. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think our panels have really expressed as well, shared their point of view in terms of all the areas during the pandemic as well, the post-pandemic of this moment in terms of procurement. Now, of course, procurement is not a small area that we can just see or go through just within a day or week. It's a huge area. It's an ocean that we need to sail through, and we have to look into many things actually. There's not a one day. Of course, as academician, we try to impart as well, share knowledge to the students in terms of the exposure that they need to gain, where they can adapt and adopt into the environment as per the requirement. This is one thing that I think is very much needed actually for in terms of academic actually. But of course, industry have their own challenges as well, and they also face a lot of new concepts as well. They also have to adopt new concepts, like companies today going into, like what we heard earlier from Darren as well, Dr. Suzari, that going into the industrial revolution of 4.0, where the technology and digitalization become very crucial, and where today we are talking more on the smart procurement as well, and how people can really move towards to the direction of being, smart in terms of buying things and save, the cost of saving as well, and the other things, overall total cost saving for the company itself. Now, with that, I would like to say thank you to all the panels for sharing their informations as well. For the 45 to more than 1 hour, and I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Azam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Azam. I don't know whether you're going to give me. I just have one last thing to share. If you give me an opportunity later, yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Instead, is it about your slide?
No. It's just one slide. I wanna share. That's
please forward. Okay. I give the floor to you.
Okay, just a couple of minutes.
After this, we have a question and answer. I have like a few questions in the meeting chat. Perhaps we could work afterwards.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, clear.
Okay. I just want to share that I've been in procurement for quite some time now, and supply chain, and working in the oil and gas, and then now in the water industry. If there's one thing I would like you to remember, is actually this Karaljic quadrant.
Karaljic model, yes.
Yeah. Because I've no matter where I've gone to, and in Shell I work for 7 different companies, and I Selangor for 2 different companies, although under the same group sort of banner. This doesn't run away, right? You can have your big data, you can have your AI, you can have your blockchain and whatnot, right? But you must be able to understand your business first.
Yeah,
And
it's a
once
basic
you understand,
understanding, I believe.
correct. So you must understand your business, and the better you understand your business, the more you can do this 4 quadrants more accurately.
Yes.
And once you can do these 4 quadrants more accurately, then means that you can treat these 4 different blocks of suppliers differently,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And once you know that, then you can figure out where is it that you can take risks, right? Where is it that you can definitely go green, the non-critical items, so you can wholeheartedly go green for that. But for strategic items, then you got to figure out that maybe if those companies that you're working with, maybe you have to single source or collaborate closely with them. If they're not green enough to your liking, then you need to work with them in a way that you help them go green while you continue to buy from them, right? So this Kraljic model, I think, has been around, I don't know, early 80s or so. It hasn't changed. I think it's something that I use everywhere I go, and every time I go to a new company, I always do this, and this has never failed me in my career. So
It
I just
is.
want you to go back and remember this, regardless whether you want to do supply chain or not. If you want to do proper cost management, risk evaluation, you must know your business that you can do this. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That is
Oh,
very good model.
yeah, yeah. I think in Izwan, I think this is one of the fundamental things that you need to understand if you want
Yeah.
to do your procurement, because
Yeah.
that will give you the direction where you're going to do your spending for your company actually. Very good.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
100%,
sharing.
100%. Yeah.
Thank you very much, the panelists and our moderator, Mr. Mohan. Now, I have a few questions here being written in the meeting chat. This is I'll give it to the panelists. First question from Ian. Ian said, "Dear panelists, suppliers or manufacturer often change their decision after we agreed on a term, while some really face some problems, others just give excuse. So what could we do to ensure that they keep their words with action, not just words?" I think it's a good question here. Ian looking for wisdom from our panelists. Okay, can you give some way forward to this question?
Let me take this question first. Okay. If you meet with the supplier that are unable or very inconsistent in the performance, it's good to move away from them. Okay, it's good to move away from them because this is actually a time bomb. You don't know when they are going to explode. Because inconsistent in their performance is going to affect your performance as well. So that's why and also dealing with the supplier like this is a very hard pain and is a lot of headache. So that's why our job in supply chain is already pressure and have trouble enough. So that's why we do not want to create more pressure from the inconsistent supplier like this. So that's why I believe that in the open market or in the market, there are a lot of supplier, regardless it's a local or from the international. There are tons of supplier you always able to source with. It just depends on how resourceful you are, so that you're able to reach out. If let's say you are unable to get the same sort of supplier, reach out for help. And internet is a good source. And in fact, that maybe a professional institution like CILT is also sometimes able to help, right? So this is how it able to connect. And for this, you don't play or you don't hope that they were able to improve, because that they already leave their mark. Okay, so the best is get away from them.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Warren. All right. Next question. This is from Muhammad Farid bin Muhammad Makmur. The question is, dear panelists, how do you foresee the trend and development of procurement in the next 5 to 10 years, beside green and or sustainable procurement?
I think we touched about this earlier as well, right? I mean, I mean, another trend I see apart from what Dr. Suzari mentioned, the more use of blockchain to make governance more transparent, to make contracts more transparent, to make the supply chain compliance better. The other thing is I think the rise of the Lazada or Shopee commercial equivalent. Yeah, I think that will, there is still, I believe, a space for a Shopee for businesses. But in fact, Shopee is already functioning as a Shopee for business anyway, right? So those kind of simple simple kind of websites like this will continue to grow, and I think this is where if you go back to the Karaljic matrix, that takes care of the non-critical or leverage items that you can leverage, yeah, but it doesn't take care of the bottleneck or strategic items which are still require relationship building and finesse, yeah. So I think that's where development of procurement will be. So if you want to cultivate a career in this area, don't try to be efficient, so to speak. You know, you have to be strategic minded. You have to see where the big pieces go together, right? So then you can cari makan in a way, right? But if you're thinking that you're better because you can run the 100-meter tender race faster, I don't think that's going to work, right? So you must be able to leverage technology to your advantage, and then how do you bring that to your company? So those are the key ones that I'm seeing. In fact, in a way, as that comes across more and more, then we do need more higher thinking, more strategic minded, more relationship building actually.
Yep.
Yeah, more relationship building. I think assessment is one thing, but this trust that you generate when you sit down with somebody face to face, you know, and figure out whether this is someone I want to do business with, this is someone who can fail or ask for price increase later on. Is this guy giving me a low price and later on looking for a variation order? You know, these are the kinds of things that go through your mind, you know. And I think having a bit more skill sets in terms of assessing people in this kind of setting, whether you can learn to trust people, quickly develop an instinct for these kind of things, and don't be shy to ask for mentorship in this area, because to develop this kind of radar also takes discipline, and I don't think you can get it right 100% of the time. You're trying to shoot for at least 70% of, at least in my case, yeah. I don't speak for, you know, Cik Amiruddin or Dr. Darren. I'm sure they have better radar than me, but you know, for me personally, yeah, I try to have that feeling in order to make sure that we don't get cheated or we don't have problems later, lah. Yeah, so that's also another skill that needs to be there, communication, and which is something that the robots hopefully won't be able to do.
I do agree on this. No matter how technology advanced it is, human touch is always it has to be there, right? A human touch in terms of relationship building or anything, it will help. If let's say you have a very good relationship with your supplier, it will really helpful in terms of the critical, right? In the critical moment. Especially in the pandemic, that whereby others customer do not able to
they're having a tough
access,
time.
having access to the supply, and then you have the good relationship with them, they were able to give you, even they are even they are unable to give you the things because of the management decision, they were also able to give you insider info and hints you how are you able to get to the top, right? That is really critical. Okay.
For CILT, I think I could add that we also want our members also have this honesty policy. Whatever the transaction face to face or not face to face, we have to be honest and also not to involve in corruption. So this is very important. We don't condone corruption. Yeah.
The integrity is very important in procurement. Actually, that's the most important part of the procurement.
Yeah, I think it's a procurement ethics need to be developed very, very well in all the procurement peoples. The ethics part is really play an important role.
Yep.
If
Yep.
we don't follow, we do have all those things, the skill, but we don't have an ethics in our life, procurement will go nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, the panelists. I think the last question from Mr. Izwan himself. Mr. Izwan asked, a definition of green procurement and environmental sustainable goal is still open to interpretation. Can academician helps in defining this term clearly, include required grading of green procurement, so we can tell which companies are highly compliant and companies that are low compliance? Yeah, this is for the academicians. Dr. Zairi, what do you think on this?
Okay, I have to be honest here. looks like the academician. What can we do now is actually a paperless. We do some green initiative with the paperless and all those things. We do e-books and all those things. But to be honest, to be more, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, to be more specific in terms of how we can help the procurement in a way of green procurement is actually we always now we do not have the PO in hard copy right now, right. I'm sure Warren know about it, that you will not having a hard copy, what do you call that, PO, but you are now paperless with all the POs are actually in concept. Betul, Warren?
Yeah, right now, last time when I start as a buyer, we always print a lot of paper.
Yeah,
So
we
every
always
time,
sign.
yeah, we always sign, and then as I mentioned, if you just want to scrap one part, you have to walk across the company just
Yes,
to
bring the
many department,
document.
yeah, just to get this. And right now it's all by system. No more printing.
Yeah, including insurance.
Okay.
Also.
Okay, from academic part of it also. Okay, just sorry, Dr. Azam. Maybe I'd like to just add something here. Now, being an academician, I think we should create awareness of what is green all about. Actually, to what extent they can contribute to the green. Now, it's an individual awareness of the green that makes the difference. Actually, it is not by just by writing and by seeing a poster or anything that would create the things. It's an individual perspective, attitude that how they can contribute, towards the green, and to what extent they have understood the green indeed, and from there they would channel the thing wherever they go and work, and they can develop a better environment at the workplace. This is what actually being an academician, I think we could create to the generation, rather than I mean, we can just say many things about green to the people, but then it's still up to the individual to what extent they understood and where they can apply it. Actually,
True,
the
true,
adapt and
Mr. Mohan.
adaptability is the most concern here, I believe.
We
Thank
can
you.
we can expose the we can convey the message to them,
Yep.
relay the message to them, but they are the one who implement it.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think to
Thank
me, you is all started from home.
Yeah.
Parents
Right.
actually plays very important to educate the children, because these green things are not only cut from when you are already teenager. You have to start from very small, so that
Yeah.
things can be successful in the future.
Thank you very much. I think this is the last question. This is the last question from Ian again. This is the last one from Ian. Then we almost 5 o'clock here. So Ian, the question is the last one is that, dear panelists, to add up to my previous question from the perspective of an export and import company, the suppliers and manufacturers are like customers to them. So should we still source to other similar company when we face the problem?
Let me try to start this one while Dr. Darren is thinking hard there. I'm sure. But for me, it's very basic. Yeah, whenever we have an item that we want to purchase, the two things that we think about once even we have a winner in terms of selecting who we feel is the right supplier at that time, we always think about an alternative supplier as well as a substitute service / substitute product.
Yep.
So that will always guarantee that, not guarantee lah, that will also minimize our risk whenever there is a no supply or failure to supply situation, right? So as a professional supply chain person, you must always know whenever it's in the strategic quadrant or the bottleneck quadrant, you must always know what your alternative suppliers are, who they are, where they are, and you must always know what your substitute products, substitute services in order for you to mitigate the risk. Yeah. So these are clear things, right? And in the situation where there are no alternative suppliers or there are no alternative products, then you are in a bad place actually. But nonetheless, what you do there is a couple of things. One is that then you go into that supply, you go deep dive into that single supplier and see what you can do to secure your line of your supply. Make sure what you can do over there. That requires your management support. In my experience, it's very rare, macam Dr. Darren sebut tadi kan, it's very rare that you don't have an alternative. The alternative could be more expensive, the substitute could be less technically suitable, but there is always an alternative. And you never want to paint yourself in a corner in such a way that you're stuck. Yeah. And even if you're stuck, then you must start working your way out, develop an alternatives supplier or alternative product within the next 2 to 3 years, so that in the next tender cycle, you have an alternative. So this is something to think about, and this is something that procurement needs to always feedback about. Yeah. So that's my point of view.
Okay, Dr. Warren, you want to add?
Yeah, I do agree with Encik Eason. Always find a backup that we call as either it's an alternative or anything. You don't get one supplier or one source that to screw you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in today's webinar on procurement challenges of during COVID-19, the way forward. So we are already reached 5 p.m. already. So I would like to thank everybody to participate, and then to the panelists, thank you very much for your wisdom and knowledge that you were willing to share with us and also the participants. So last but not least, can we have a photo session? Can everyone switch on your cameras so that I could do a print screen and take the pictures?
Can you see